Hi, and thank you for joining me today for a discussion on the contribution of heritage to the Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Linda Shatabi. I'm a policy analyst on urban heritage conservation and environmental sustainability. I'm also a member of the International Council on Monuments and Sites, or ICOMOS, and the task team coordinator for the ICOMOS Sustainable Development Goals Working Group, focusing on the localization of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. My talk today will illustrate how heritage, understood in its broadest sense, which includes cultural, natural, tangible, and intangible, can contribute to sustainable development, with a particular focus on the 5 key principal concerns of the SDGs, namely people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships, commonly referred to as the 5 Ps. The aim is to show how the SDGs are an intertwined framework instead of a group of siloed goals, and how heritage can not only be a vehicle for delivering progress on all these goals, but a key instrument in highlighting the interconnectivity of the goals. This is important because delivering sustainable development requires a change in thinking and a recognition that the SDGs are an interdependent framework where progress on one aspect or domain must balance and support progress on another. But before we look at how heritage can contribute to the SDGs, let's first take a quick look at what they are and what we mean by sustainable development. Sustaining a livable planet through sustainable development continues to be one of the strongest global concerns shared amongst nations worldwide, as evident by the current focus on climate change and its impacts on our future. The idea of sustainability is not new. Concerns over the impact of development on our environment has been raised since the early days of wide-scale industrialization. The concept of sustainable development, as is generally discussed today, comes from the definition that was introduced in our common future, the United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development report that was published in 1987, also known as the Brundtland Report. In that report, sustainable development was defined as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, generally illustrated as development that's supported by the 3 pillars of economic viability, social equity, and environmental protection, or through the Venn diagram that shows sustainable development at the intersection of prosperity, people, and the planet. But like every other concept that's meant to have a global application, including the concept of heritage, there's a plurality of interpretations, which has led to different approaches at achieving sustainability, each reflecting different philosophies and each attempting to address the conflicts that rise between environmental protection and viable development while encapsulating the social dimensions of sustainable development. Bottom line is that without a healthy ecosystem, we cannot have a viable economy. And without cooperation and mutual understanding, we cannot reach solutions that can address our global problems. And it is in this spirit that in 2015, all 193 United Nations member states adopted a World Plan for Action for Sustainable Development in transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which led to the creation of the Sustainable Development Goals as a holistic approach for global collaboration between governments, NGOs, and private and public entities to end poverty, fight inequality, and tackle climate change. Each of the 17 goals have specific targets for 2030, and these targets have indicators that help measure progress. While not perfect, the SDGs create a common set of goals through a common language. The first 12 goals focus on distinct categories, but the next 4 are much broader, categories that incorporate elements from other SDGs. This is to encourage a shift from a sectoral or silo-based approach to a more transversal approach that's multidimensional and multi-actor, creating opportunities for dialogue and exchange between different knowledges and stakeholders. While it's been long established that culture is the fourth pillar of sustainability and an enabler and key driver of sustainable development, this recognition of the full contribution of heritage to sustainable development, and indeed the SDGs, has remained rather limited. Cultural heritage appears most prominently in Goal 11 on sustainable cities and communities in Target 11.4 to protect the world's cultural and natural heritage, and more implicitly in other goals such as SDG 4 on education, SDG 8 on work and economic growth, and SDG 12 on consumption and production. But the 2030 Agenda fails to acknowledge fully and affirm the importance of heritage as an essential driver and enabler of sustainable development and its potential to contribute to all of the SDGs. Our heritage is much more than just monuments and tourist attractions. It's an ever-evolving resource that reveals our identity, provides tangible references to our practices and memories, creates a sense of place, and at times strengthens social cohesion and fosters socio-economic regeneration that improves our well-being. At the International Council on Monuments and Sites, we strongly believe that heritage can play a key role in addressing the SDGs, but more work is needed to understand and address the potentials and challenges that link heritage to each goal. And even though ICOMOS has a variety of documents, declarations, concept notes, and action plans, a more comprehensive text explaining heritage and its contribution to each of the Sustainable Development Goals was still needed. So earlier this year, a policy guidance document was created as a first step in addressing this gap and to demonstrate the many ways in which heritage can be harnessed towards achieving the SDGs. It illustrates how heritage can be a positive contribution and be leveraged by all actors in the heritage and development fields to improve policy and practice. It draws upon a diverse range of expertise sourced from ICOMOS's SDGs working group and representatives of ICOMOS's national and scientific committees, who provided input through an in-person expert meeting, online surveys, online working group meetings, and 2 rounds of consultations on drafts of the document. It also builds on the large number of doctrinal texts shaping cultural heritage protection literature worldwide, created by the ICOMOS global membership. An essential principle has been to ensure that there is a balanced representation of experts from all 5 global regions and all areas within the practice of heritage conservation and management. While this is an ICOMOS authored publication, the document is also aligned with guidance from UNESCO and other advisory bodies, such as the International Union for Conservation of Nature and the International Center for the Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property, as well as other key institutions. Grounded in the 5 Ps underlying the 2030 Agenda, people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnerships, this policy guidance illustrates how heritage is mobilized to achieve the well-being of people and the planet, and demonstrates the potential of heritage in promoting social cohesion and dialogue for peace and creating strong partnerships, while celebrating the embodied resources that support the prosperity of communities, all of which highlight the interrelated nature of the SDGs and the potential of heritage in addressing these goals. The policy guidance consists of 17 policy sections, each addressing a specific SDG, starting with a baseline of the current context, threats, potentials, and a policy statement on the contribution of heritage to the targeted SDG. Each section is concluded by a case study that provides an example of practical implementation strategies and the interplay between the different SDGs. Although some of the SDGs may seem more relevant to heritage than others, all SDGs have been addressed consistently in this policy guidance to showcase how heritage-based approaches can contribute to sustainable development in more ways than conventionally assumed. The rest of this talk will detail some of these case studies to articulate the role of heritage in supporting social cohesion, prosperity, peace, strong partnerships in a sustainable planet. The first case study that we will be looking at will focus on people and SDG 5 on gender equality, showing how we can harness the potential of heritage to achieve gender equality, eradicate bias and violence based on sexual orientation, and empower all genders, recognizing that heritage is constantly changing and evolving, and ensure that all genders are able to access and enjoy heritage equally, and are involved equally in all aspects of heritage, from identifying and interpreting to conserving, managing, and transmitting to future generations. The first case study is based in Jordan. It is the USAID Sustainable Cultural Heritage through Engagement of Local Communities, and was implemented by the American Center of Research, or ACOR. The project works to enable communities to preserve their cultural heritage resources and market these to both domestic and international visitors. By engaging local communities in the preservation, management, and promotion of heritage sites, the aim is to ensure their viability as long-term resources. Some of this work is done through capacity building programs that equip cultural heritage workers and institutions with key skills, which also contributes to SDG 4 on education. The project brings together governmental, non-governmental, academic, and private sector stakeholders to develop strategies and policies that guide the management of Jordan's cultural heritage resources, which also contributes to SDG 17, or partnerships. This is done by providing small-scale grants to develop a strong local community of heritage practitioners, creating relationships between relevant governmental departments, institutions, and professional associations, and involving community members in site development through training awareness and job creation related to cultural heritage, which also contributes to SDG 8, or employment and economic opportunities. The key importance of the project is that it actively engages women from cultural heritage resource mandated entities, micro and small enterprises, and local heritage institutions for capacity building programs and on-the-job training opportunities. This support has resulted in women-led cooperatives and companies set up to care for neighboring heritage sites and provide products and services that generate income and employment opportunities, which has so far succeeded in engaging over 200 women. The project has facilitated the transfer of knowledge, career development, participation in international and national conferences, leadership in developing sector-based strategies, policies, and procedures, and a more active participation by women in high-level management of World Heritage sites. Therefore, this project not only supports greater gender equality in the heritage sector, but also contributes to SDG 4 and SDG 8 through education and capacity buildings, which leads to better employment opportunities, and to SDG 17 by facilitating partnerships between national and international NGOs, government entities, and the education and private sector. So in just one case study, we can see that heritage contributes to a number of SDGs. Our next case study will focus on the planet to show how we can harness the potential of heritage to promote landscape-based, value-based, and human rights-based approaches to the protection, restoration, and sustainable use of our ecosystems. This global project is called the Culture-Nature Journey and was created in response to persistent issues arising from the systematic separation of cultural and natural values that's entrenched in many conservation systems and practices. It emerged in response to the ICOMOS and IUCN Connecting Practice project, which focused on identifying, developing, and communicating shared, localized methodologies to provide sustainable conservation outcomes. By focusing on World Heritage properties, the journey became a vehicle to engage the broader membership of ICOMOS and IUCN in transferring the lessons learned from these properties and applying them to a range of other heritage contexts. The Culture-Nature Journey is a shared space where heritage practitioners are encouraged to explore and recognize the interconnectedness of nature and culture and the role that nature plays in shaping and conserving our cultural identity and traditions. The journey promotes an approach to heritage that is based on the understanding that the relationship between people, their traditions, and the natural environment have shaped and sustained our natural and cultural environments. Similar to the earlier case study, the Culture-Nature Journey not only contributes to SDG 15, or Life on Land, by collecting, initiating, and fostering multi- and interdisciplinary conversations on improving the protection of natural and cultural heritage across protected area landscapes through the inclusion of a diverse range of interested natural and cultural heritage practitioners, but it also contributed to discussions on best practices for seascapes, or SDG 14, and included projects demonstrate the importance of nature and culture to the mental and physical well-being of people, or SDG 3, and the importance of culture and natural values to the effective design of urban environments, such as the historic urban landscape, which, by the way, contributes to SDG 11. Culture-Nature Journey approaches are also integral to developing sustainable initiatives for addressing climate change impacts, and in that way contributes to SDG 13. Yet again, we see how one case study contributes to a range of different SDGs. From people and planet, we move on to prosperity, because who doesn't want to live in a prosperous life? Our next case study harnesses heritage as a resource for inclusive and sustainable local and regional economic development. Our traveler uses interpretation technology to build a sustainable tourism model in Jaipur, India. The broad goal of the project was to use digital technologies to create awareness of the heritage values in and around Jaipur in the context of the current threats facing the city. Featuring augmented reality, audio-visual and textual information and interaction, the Traveler mobile application was developed to curate content layers that provide accurate interpretations of the built heritage of Jaipur, as well as highlighting the unique traditions, rituals, culinary habits, environmental dependence, cathartic practices, iconographic accounts of the communities and their thought processes, and nuances of ecology, flora and fauna, and their impact on living heritage. The proposed heritage walk of the Jaukri Morikana on a Traveler is the first of a series of planned, extended, self-exploratory experiences beyond the built heritage of Jaipur. This heritage walk showcases a selection of historic, cultural, and architectural heritage of the walled city, which might otherwise have remained unnoticed. The augmented reality experience of Amer Fort, developed in the context of the site management plan created by the Global Heritage Fund, offers an accurate and highly engaging interpretation for its visitor segment. The Traveler connects visitors directly to the host communities and helps promote their traditional crafts, arts, and cuisine, thus starting a micro-level economic model for local communities. To create the Heritage Walk, students of Jaipur Architectural School documented the traditional intangible cultural heritage and onboarded the traditional brass and coppersmiths of the region. Well, this helped the students build an appreciation for the diversity of the local culture, which supports SDG 4. The platform also gives the host communities a curated online marketplace, which they can use to highlight their products and services which are unique to their region, thus supporting SDG 8. The online marketplace will be available to a larger global customer base via Traveler's outreach in the heritage tourism space. The long-term plan of the project is to bring on board larger communities of tradespeople, local eateries, and the like to improve the economy. This work would not have been possible without fostering partnerships with local, national, and international agencies and institutions, and plus this case study is also illustrating how heritage practices contribute to a variety of SDGs, such as SDG 4, 8, and 17, and how the SDGs themselves are interconnected and interrelated. But let's face it, without peace, our heritage, the people, and our planet are at risk. So the next case study focuses on peace with a project called ICOR on the Road. The project shows how heritage can be harnessed in the development of just, inclusive, and peaceful societies. ICOR on the Road is an initiative launched in 2018 by the International Committee on Monuments and Sites and the ICOMOS International Scientific Committee on Risk Preparedness, or ICOR. In partnership with Tamir, the Research Center for Preservation of Historic Heritage at Yildiz Technical University in Istanbul, Turkey. It shed light on untold stories of post-disaster response and recovery of cultural heritage sites, narrated by the affected local community members and conservation experts from around the world. The project uses a variety of means to bring stories of survival and rebuilding to international audiences, stories of people who are protecting their heritage and cultural identity, even though they could be endangering their own lives. These stories showcase the rebuilding of lives by saving the physical remnants of their past from their collective memories. 6 documentary episodes conveying inspiring stories of resilience and unity from heritage sites and communities that were affected by armed conflicts and nature-induced disasters bring us closer to heritage sites in Nepal, Turkey, Pakistan, Brazil, India, and Mali. The project highlights the importance of the post-disaster recovery of cultural and natural heritage and the role that cultural heritage can play in securing peace in the world. Jaipur on the Road retells the tremendous efforts that local experts and community members take to ensure that cultural heritage is safe from serious threats like destruction from natural disasters or conflict to illicit trafficking in the most challenging of times. Safeguarding their tangible and intangible heritage can be a vehicle that helps affected communities move forward with strength and resilience. By conveying these stories to international audiences, the project aims to share these experiences and firsthand knowledge to inspire other affected communities in similar circumstances, and provides valuable knowledge to experts focusing on the protection of cultural heritage in times of disaster and armed conflict. In addition to the documentary series, the project team members participate in scientific organizations, training, and gatherings with young professionals to strengthen international cooperation and local capacity building, which contributes to, among others, SDG 17, and by covering cultural heritage sites and communities that are affected by conflict, the project aspires to promote peace and combat violence and terrorism, and thus contributing to SDG 16. And finally, a sustainable planet with peace and prosperity for all people cannot exist without strong partnerships. So the last of the case studies will be on SDG 17 and the Climate Heritage Network, which shows how harnessing the potential of strategic partnerships in heritage processes can foster sustainability-oriented heritage and development policies and practices. The Climate Heritage Network was conceived in 2018 and instituted in 2019. It's a voluntary, self-sustaining, and mutual support network for arts, culture, and heritage organizations committed to aiding their communities in tackling climate change and achieving the ambitions of the Paris Agreement. The focus of the network is to engage, provide support, and learn from colleagues from jurisdictions that have made concrete climate action pledges, like the Under 2 Coalition and the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. With approximately 200 members from a diverse range of sectors, such as the arts, culture, and heritage, universities and research organizations, design firms, artists, and businesses, as well as indigenous peoples' governments, representative bodies and organizations, and other NGOs. The Climate Heritage Network aims to find new connections and partnerships to accelerate climate action goals, as well as help bring communities to the global climate change conversation. The network has provided intersectional content for more than 100 in-person and virtual conferences, webinars, and symposiums, all in the service of better engaging climate action partners in new synergistic ways. By mobilizing on a global scale, the Climate Heritage Network provides a framework for culture, heritage, and the arts to transform climate action at local levels. Because it's by strengthening partnerships at all levels of civil society and untapping collective knowledge that the goals of the Paris Agreement can be met. These case studies illustrate a few examples of how the potential of heritage can be harnessed to address the SDGs. And while our definition of heritage might differ from nation to nation or amongst different members of society, in the most general sense, heritage is a blueprint of our journey through time and a manifestation of our hopes, our ideals, and sometimes our coping strategies or responses to the world around us. And embedded in this heritage, we can find solutions and pathways towards a more sustainable life. Although there are differences in defining sustainability, ultimately we live in a planet where every human activity can have an impact on the entire ecosystem. And to maintain a livable planet, we must be mindful of these impacts. Therefore, everything we do, including the management of our heritage, should support a living, healthy, and sustainable planet by reducing the unnecessary depletion of resources. And for that, we will need solutions that are suitable and practical at the local level. And towards that end, the ICOMOS SDG Working Group has started a new campaign to transform the policy recommendations in this policy guidance into effective and measurable actions that support practitioners in developing context-appropriate responses. And for that, of course, we will need the help of all of our heritage practitioners across the world in engaging with the SDGs, so that the inconsistencies or contradictions between heritage practice and sustainable development objectives can be addressed and the evolving perspectives on heritage and sustainable development can be integrated into future action plans. I'd like to thank you again for joining me today on the discussion on heritage and the SDGs. If you'd like to learn more about the policy guidance, please visit ICOMOS's website, where you can download the document for free. Thank you and goodbye.